Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Request to Build series. Today I will be covering the nuclear reactor. Now, a lot of you out there have been holding your breath waiting for this video. The reason why it's taken so long is because I've been absolutely swamped with things to do lately. Not only have I got my own personal things to do, I've also got to run the server, which has been experiencing a lot of lag issues lately. So, sorry about the wait. It has affected the punctuality of these videos, but we're somewhat back on track now, so today I will be doing the nuclear reactor. Now this is going to be a basic video on tips and tricks for you to learn how to build your own. This is not going to be an extensive video on nuclear reactors because an extensive video on nuclear reactors will be 50 minutes long. And I like to keep my videos at around the 20-minute mark maximum. So this is going to be just a basic video showing you how you can go about building your own, because there's a lot of personal preference involved here. So let's get started. So in this chest I have all the goodies we need to get started. Lots of stuff. This is going to seem very daunting, but it's actually quite simple. So we're going to take a nuclear reactor out of the nuclear chambers. We're going to take some reinforced stone out, and we'll just take these bits and bobs out at first. Right, so let's drop down inside. So I wouldn't worry about the where the sun was then. I wouldn't worry about this. This is just reinforced stone. This is obviously however you want to build it. The explosion of a nuclear reactor can be very devastating to your base, so this is why I've put enclosed it in stone. The redstone to ally wires, I'll explain that in a moment, and this is the power cable that's going to be taking the power from our nuclear reactor. So the reason why I have this bit of stone here is because I'm going to plonk this chamber on like so, and then I'm going to break this stone. I don't have a pickaxe on me. I know, duh. You forget these things when you're making videos. So let's get rid of this bit of stone here. Right, so the chambers themselves, that's the reactor, this is the chamber. The chamber themselves, the reason why I've got this up here so I can show you, all you have to do is press R on a recipe over here, and it will show you the recipe over here. That's why I've got this up. And the recipe for a nuclear reactor is quite complicated, as you can see. It isn't easy. Now I'm not going to be going too much into detail here because you can obviously find this in your own. So get rid of this now that I've shown you that. Okay, and nuclear chambers are as follows. If you want a better look at that, go into your local Minecraft server, press R on the list on the right hand side. So the chambers work a lot like upgrades for MFFS shields, in the sense that you just add them on to the machine like so. Okay, you can have 6 chambers on and it will make an 9 by 6 it will make area for you to put all of your bits and bobs in. So the reason why I've got this bit of circuitry here is because I want to put a thermal monitor down. This is the recipe here. I wanted to put a thermal monitor down because just shift and click and right click it again and set it. Okay, so this basically says that whenever it reaches this heat it will put out a redstone pulse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to 8,000. In fact, I'm going to set this to 9,000. Okay, for those who don't know, when a nuclear reactor reaches 10,000 heat, the components inside start to melt, and it's going to explode. Things can alter that, so don't start posting in the channel, you know, oh my god, what the hell are you on about? No, it doesn't. If you have plating inside, then it can increase that, but 10,000 is a good point to go, there's something wrong. Okay, so 10,000, you're looking at problems. So I set it at 8,000, that was in a redstone pulse. What I've got behind these blocks is red lights, so that when that pulses, I will be able to see from the outside that something is wrong, because those red lights will activate. Also, I'm going to be putting a industrial alarm just here, like so. So we will increase the sound range to 104, just so everybody knows in the immediate vicinity that something is about to go kaboom. You're being a pain because, yeah. Oh, there we go. Sorted now. Right, so that's that sorted. So basically when that reaches 9,000 heat, it's going to send a pulse up here, the alarm's going to go off, and the lights are going to come on. So that is a very good indication as to the fact that you have a big problem brewing in your nuclear reactor chamber. So that is just a little tidbit, I guess you could say. I'm going to be covering why I've got this in my inventory in a second. But let's actually get started with the inside of a nuclear reactor. So let's get these in our inventory. Okay, so a little obvious tip here: always put the cooling in first. Now that may sound ridiculous, but it's ridiculous how many people fail to do it. It's just unbelievable how many people fail to do this. People put they put the uranium in first, and then they sit there going, why did it explode? Well, maybe you should have put the coolant in first, and then you wouldn't have this issue, would you? So it's just an absolute no-brainer. But you know, people are stupid sometimes. You know, you've got to bear with them. I'm just alt-tabbing down a minute because I've made a note on how I'm going to set this up. Yeah, that's how I thought it was going to be set up. So all you have to do for now is just follow what I'm doing here. Oh, I'm one short. What a pain in the arse. Okay, bear with me a second while I go and grab another integrated heat dispenser. Okay, I've got myself some more integrated heat dispensers. So we're going to put one there and one there. And I believe that is it. Yeah, that is it. Cool. So just some facts for you, like to talk about this, why I'm doing this as opposed to just copy me. Integrated heat dispersers disperse heat in all of the areas around it. How nuclear reactors basically work is they take heat from uranium cells, and the more heat that it produces, the more power it makes. Now you obviously think, well, okay, rack up the heat as high as it goes, but it's a fine balance between having it cool enough so that it doesn't explode, but hot enough that it produces enough power so it becomes financially worth it. So that's what we're basically trying to do here. So and basically what I'm doing here is I'm alt-tabbing because I've made notes as to how I'm going to set this up. This is quite a common build that I'm doing right now, and I explain why when I've done it. But if you just sort of like, if you want just a safe build without, you know, if you don't want to make your own, you just want to know a safe build, then copy what I'm doing here. If you want to make your own, then I will tell you how to go about doing that. So these heat dispersers here, when heat reaches this disperser, it will move that heat over to the left, the top, the right, and you know, it'll disperse the heat all around it, so that it means that heat is transferred to more coolant cells, which will mean that it won't overheat quite as quickly. So that's basically what that is. Okay, so like that. Oh, nuclear reactors are probably one of the most complicated things in industrial craft. So if you're new to industrial craft and you're looking at this and you're going, oh my god, this is sort of like, it doesn't really get much more complicated than this. So basically, if I have a uranium cell there, these 4 coolant cells would all take heat from that one uranium cell, and that's normally where it would end. But because these are here, it's going to take the heat from it, and it's also going to apply it to this one. Okay, so this one's going to apply to this one, which is 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 going to apply to this one. So this one just spreads the heat out further and further, which is great because it means that the heat isn't quite so concentrated. Basically, like, these take away heat ticks. So if you've got one of these and it's heat ticking for 10 and they take 1 each, that's not actually what it does, but let's just say hypothetically, it would take 1 away from it. But if you can get the heat somehow to affect 10 of these, then the heat would be completely nulled out. And so, you know, the uranium cell will run out before the coolant does. So you have a 100% safe setup, because the heat is being dispersed so much that it will never, like, uranium cell will always run out before the coolant does. So you've got a completely safe setup. So that right there is a system that will affect everything on the inside. So when you put heat in, and I'll do this now, when you put uranium in, it will bring up a green bar and everything around it, and basically what that tells you is that that is being affected by the heat. Right, now before I put that in, I'm just going to go and make sure that my MFSU is all wired up and everything. So we'll be back momentarily. Okay guys, all I did there was just make sure that my MFSU is all wired up correctly before I started putting the power in, and I waited for it to become daylight. So, okay, let's get started again. So, as I put these uranium cells in, you'll notice that the area around them lights up. Now this is almost like, without a better way of putting it, like a experience bar, a durability bar. When these reach nothing, they're empty, and that's when you have a serious problem. So, as you can see, apart from the exception of him for some reason, which he'll probably take over in a minute, there we go, everything in this entire area is being affected, which is great, because what that means is, it means that the heat is affecting everything in this setup. If these things aren't being affected, it's just wasted, because the heat isn't reaching it. So it's not actually helping your build in any way. You know, it's not improving it. Every tick, these uranium cells tick for, I believe, 10, but it might be more than that. Citation needed. These things get patched so often it's hard to keep up. For every uranium cell that's adjacent to it, it ticks again. So this ticks for 2, and this ticks for 2. So you can see that if you have too many uranium cells next to each other, you start to tick for an exceptional amount of heat. So if I had 4 cells together, imagine that. So this one would tick for 1, 2, 3, 4. The next one would tick for 1, 2, 3, 4. The next one would tick for 1, 2, 3, 4. And the next one would tick for 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're effectively producing like 4 times the heat from just those 4 by having them next to each other. Granted, that would create more power, because remember, heat equals power. But it would be so unmanageable to try and cool. It would be so, like, you would have to have a system to constantly check it, because it would just get so dangerous. This here is a completely safe setup. The coolant will run out way after the uranium does. So your uranium will run out, and the coolant will still be fine. So this is completely safe. You can leave this going without any fear of it exploding, and you're absolutely fine. If you second click here, you can see that we're getting power like at quite a good rate. Let's I don't have an EU checker on me, but as you can see, you're getting power, you know. And this is, you obviously can make up your own build if you feel like you can, but this is a really safe build for you guys to copy. All you got to remember is when you're building your own is to make sure you have these dividing your heat, to make sure you don't have too many uranium cells touching each other, and just to make sure that everything in your build is got this green bar on it, which means your heat is being dispersed at 100% efficiency. If it isn't, there's just no point in it being there, so you should change it. It's pretty much as simple as that. What you got to remember is this: if this does overheat to more than 9,000 heat, the alarm will go off and the lights will go on. And so this is a very safe nuclear reactor build, very safe. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. The other thing I was going to show you is to have filters going in and out with redstone tubing, but I suppose I could show you that, but it's not really. No, I'm not going to bother. So what you could have is you could have redstone tubing coming out, and have it into a filter with a chest with coolant cells in it, so that if a coolant cell, because when a coolant cell reaches 0, it gets removed from the system. It's just gone, and there's just an empty slot there. So if you had a filter with a chest with coolant in there, it's just constantly ticking over with a timer. When the coolant cell got removed from the system, it would instantly get refilled. The problem with that is that if something that isn't a coolant cell got removed, it can't tell if there was meant to be a coolant cell there or not. So it'll just fill it with the coolant cells. So you can have some problems in that regard. Another thing you can have is that when a uranium cell reaches 0, it gets replaced with a near depleted uranium cell, which is a completely different item. It's got a different ID. So you could have a filter that just took out depleted uranium cells, and then filled empty slots with uranium. So basically that would mean that, you know, if this reached nothing, it would get removed, and then it would get filled with another one on maximum. Of course, the only way you'd be able to do that is if you had a system that was 100% safe, so that the coolant was always fine. The problem with that is that if it kept doing it, eventually the coolant would run out. Eventually the uranium would win in the durability race, and your machine would blow up. So you've got to be really, really careful when it comes to automated coolant and automated filling systems. I will be doing another video with a build that removes empty uranium cells and puts in full uranium cells. And I will also, in that video, be doing a build on removing and filling coolant cells. So stay tuned for that one. That'll probably coming out sometime this week. But like I said, this video is obviously already quite long, so I don't really have time to do it all. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to fly over there, put down a nuclear reactor, and show you what the explosion looks like for a nuclear reactor that goes off. So I'll be right back, guys. Okay, guys. So I'm on my single-player world here, just so I don't ruin the multiplayer world that we are on. And I'm going to stick all of this uranium into this machine, and we're going to see what a reactor explosion looks like. So I've stuck all those uranium in there. As you can see, it's starting to overheat, and once it reaches critical heat, which is 10,000 I believe, it's going to explode. Now imagine this going off in your base. You know, this isn't exactly huge, but it's enough to like ruin your base really like horrifically. So this is sort of what happens when you don't do it right. As you can see, it's starting to set fire to the area, lag, and boom. So that is what happens to your base if you don't wire these up correctly. So yeah, you really want to pay attention when it comes to building these things right, because that is just your base gone. Like, there's no questions asked, no ifs, no buts, base gone. So I've been DCY Stezzer. I hope this video has been useful. As I said, I will be doing some insertion and removal of coolant cells and uranium cells. So make sure you stay tuned for that. If you like what you see and you want to see more, then subscribe. Thumbs up this video so I know that you guys understand it and have enjoyed it, more importantly. And stay tuned for more Island Survival. I've been DCY Stezzer. Have a nice afternoon.